terrific, wonderful for everybody to be here, and I certainly bring greetings on behalf of the Board of Trustees and our chair, Eddie Bartola. Rifka has been in my area, thankfully, I think the whole time I have, so it's wonderful. And it's so great to see all the people from the West, and people, okay, there's a few of you defected from the West, but that's all right. Or moved to the far West, I mean, what can I tell you? Anywho, it's a wonderful pleasure. I've known Rifka, interestingly, since we were both teenagers before we got into the education business. And I've known Shalom as well. So it's just fantastic. I know her when she lived in London, and I used to trek over to London to see various people. And she has been an absolute wonder in our system, of course, and been great in all of our schools. And it's a real pleasure to say Mazel Tov today to her. But we really don't want to see her go. But what can I say? So come back, do some rocks, that sort of stuff. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to keep it short, and we wanted to honor Rifka in the best way that we knew how to. So we decided to create a digital short for her. So our presentation, it just proves that with Rifka's passion, she has taught us so much in technology, and Wendy and I were able to create this. Anybody can learn it.
We're in good hands in the room with all your tech friends here. Take a risk.
I wonder if she can see. Absolutely. Mom?
Hey Wendy. Did you hear the news? Rifka is retiring.
Dina, say it ain't so. What are we going to do without her?
I know what you mean. Who is going to teach us about all the new apps and the new digital technology? We are doomed. Our information will be lost in the iCloud forever.
And although Rifka never cooks, you will ask the question, I don't mean to stir the pot, but which then leads us to a 2-hour thoughtful, rich discussion, with Rifka immediately saying, not that I really care because I won't be around.
And who will continue to passionately fight the good fight, as only Rifka can, to ensure digital literacy and technology are in the forefront as we educate our 21st century students?
I hear ya. And who is going to dazzle us with her amazing manicures, with her ring finger always having that extra nail bling bling?
And who is going to take all us newbies and not so newbies under her informal wing and always give us sage advice and comic relief when we are about to lose it and tear our hair out?
Wait a second, Dina. This is not supposed to be about us.
You're right, Wendy. This is a happy time. It is Rifka's retirement. Don't worry, Rifka. We will be okay eventually. Perhaps with a little therapy too.
Rifka, hopefully you will now have more time for your family and to catch up with old friends. It will be great to be able to say, I will meet you on Tuesday for lunch, and know that you don't have to go to work that day. It will be even nicer to be able to sleep in a bit on Monday morning instead of heading to the gym by 6.
And Shalom. He's one lucky guy.
He sure is. Not only is he getting his wife back full-time, he will be passing the torch of domestic responsibilities over to Rifka. This year, Rifka will be assuming the lead role for Passover preparation. Gone are the days of using work as an excuse.
Now the gardening, meals and toilets will all be hers. Lucky woman.
Most definitely.
With all this new time on your hands, we are confident you'll take on many new challenges because we all know that you can't resist a challenge. So we are quite sure you will be doing something new and exciting.
No longer will she be lost in PC land now that she has crossed over to the other side and embraced the Mac world with her new MacBook Pro. If you want to find her, first look on Facebook and then at the Apple Store in Yorkdale, where she will be receiving daily tutoring.
But before long, we know that Rifka will be teaching those guys a thing or two or three. As you ponder your employment opportunities, you may want to give Tim Cook a call. Apple stock will soar for sure with you on board.
We are sure you will develop new hobbies or skills and find satisfaction and enjoyment in so doing. You may, for instance, decide to cycle from coast to coast or learn to Zumba dance. You may instead decide to use your data queen skills to produce board computer programs to make our lives easier, perhaps, secrets and staffing, or maybe write your memoirs, the do's and don'ts of being a principal, or like many of your predecessors, be back in the next few months as a rock.
Whatever you choose to do, we hope that you will enjoy good health and happiness. We hope too that you have happy memories of your years as a teacher and a principal.
Rifka has been working for the board for so many years we have stopped counting, although I am sure she has an app that details the hours, minutes and seconds.
On a more serious note, Rifka has been an inspirational colleague, mentor and friend. She has always been someone you could count on unconditionally.
She is a dedicated educator and a true lifelong learner. As a leader, her commitment to building capacity and furthering the organization is to be commended, and her impact both at school and board levels will be felt for years and years to come. She truly wants everyone to achieve success.
It has been a privilege and an honor to learn and work with Rifka.
We have been Rifka's friends over these years, and we have mixed feelings about seeing her leave. On one hand, we want Rifka to stay with us.
But on the other hand, we want her to be happy.
I got it.
Yes, there is an answer. Take us with you.
We love you, Rifka.
Shared with me what they were going to do, and I thought, that's fine, I don't need to compete. I would never be able to do anything like that, and I couldn't ask Rifka to help me. So I'm going to do the little formal piece, which is Rifka, on behalf of senior administration, on behalf of Ken, you know that he sends his best wishes for you to have a happy retirement, and the team that you have worked with over the years also share in those greetings. That's the formal part. So to Rifka's family, welcome. We're so delighted that you're here to join us today. It's always an honor, I believe, for you to hear what she's like elsewhere. For Rifka, a time for everything. You ready? Yes. Got your Kleenex? We've been discussing this for a few weeks.
And it will be the first time that we've cried together.
Actually not. Another time. So once upon a time, not so very long ago, someone called me and said, "Hi, this is Rifka Eisenstadt, and we'll be working together, and I'm looking forward to that." Well, maybe it didn't really happen that way. But we did meet that summer. We went out for lunch and talked about many different things, and it was the start of two beautiful relationships, our professional one and our personal one. I could always count on Rifka to provide me with interesting challenges. I would receive an email titled, really long email, or some mullings,
You're very creative.
or 2 bits of information, or inquiring minds learn to read and write, or kill me now. Each missive would include the description of an issue, a lot of background information, and her thinking on what her next step was. Sometimes it wasn't clear if the note was really for me, or just the opportunity for her to get her thinking down so she would know what she wanted to do. After receiving one of those notes, I would always call, and after the initial, "Hi, boss," and then we would discuss the next steps. Rifka would talk, and I would listen. Sometimes I'd ask a question, and Rifka would talk, and I would listen. More often than not, Rifka had determined what the next step needed to be, whether the issue was one of working to support students in challenging circumstances, helping parents to gain a different perspective, providing support for those who work with the children and families, and very often her determinations included what tweaking needed to occur in her own thinking and actions. Really, she didn't need me at all. She just needed a sounding board. A reflective, compassionate, and passionate educator, though she often tried to deny that she was compassionate, Rifka cares deeply about the students and families that she serves, the staff that she is a part of, the staff of today and yesterday and all the yesterdays, witness those who are here. And the learning. While she relishes the role of devil's advocate, it is because she enjoys the discourse that furthers our thinking. And she seemed to particularly enjoy sharing perspective. For example, just before I pack up my computer for the day, I want to share a thought. And then the next thought would make me pause and consider her thinking. Some of her thinking, or mullings, as she called them, included mulling 1. As an administrator, I want to know if the work that I've been doing is showing results. This may sound a little ornery, but it's bugging me. Mulling 2, somewhat related. Is the most important way to measure student success still EQAO or a common assessment? Where do we get to measure global citizenship, caring for our fellow student, and more broadly our fellow man, stewardship of the environment? Where do we measure our student and staff well-being? I understand that literacy and stewardship are not mutually exclusive, but when do we embrace these other very important issues? Mulling 3. And finally, what about digital literacy? This needs to be on the radar. The kids are already there, and we are becoming more and more obsolete. One of the best vehicles for critical thinking is, and always at the end of the mulling, thanks for listening, Rifka. Over the years, Rifka and I also engaged in many other conversations. As a result of those other conversations, I have 4 recipes for Passover mundel bread, biscotti to those who don't know, each with a rating as to whether they sound good or not, and an instruction to bring her some of whatever I make. Oodles of YouTube and newspaper clippings, as she generously provided me with more reading and watching. I know she didn't think I had enough to do. Book lists that I will get to when it's my turn for unscheduled time. Recommendations for the many different restaurants that she has frequented. Quotes to use at any opportune time at all. For example, example is not the main thing in influencing others. It is the only thing. Albert Schweitzer. And I have the memory of the many conversations about kids and learning and next steps and new ideas. Always brimming with ideas and with an enthusiasm that she often tried to hide, Rifka's the consummate learner. Challenging thinking through her mullings, taking us into the next new program on our laptops and iPads, looking for the connections that will help carve out the path to new learning, often hard to keep up with, and sharing generously her knowledge and her skill. She has been a supportive colleague and a critical friend. She has willingly and enthusiastically embraced the challenges of education of today. Rifka has provided leadership to those she has worked with at each school, in the area networks, and through her work on the technology committee. Her curiosity and her willingness to muse out loud and up close are hallmarks of her practice. Rifka, you have undertaken the challenges of teaching and educational leadership, and you have more than met these challenges with grace, with dignity, with humor, with passion, and sometimes with a few tears. The process of retirement is filled with emotion. The relief that occurs once you make the decision to retire, the bewilderment that you have once you realize you have a whole mess of work to do in order to complete the process, the anxiety of second-guessing yourself, the sense of accomplishment when you have completed all the tasks related to retirement, and you have crossed the T's and dotted the I's of your last newsletters and memos, and the sense of anticipation as you pass through these last days. When I asked Rifka recently how she was doing, she said, "I'm just not as fine as I thought I would be. I've just finished writing my last newsletter, and I'm about to begin my last council meeting. And in the words of Gloria Gaynor, I will survive." Well, Rifka, you have more than survived. You have accomplishments to be proud of, friendships to be cherished, and the memories of a career well done. And now, with some apologies to those who know where the apologies go to everything. To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under the sun, a time for the gym at a reasonable hour, and after to luxuriate in a hot shower, a time for your nails done, not in a hurry, a time for yourself and time not to worry about school council and staff meetings, time driving North Canarian meetings. Instead, there is time. Time for more reading. Elmore be gone, the Hunter games are leaving. In your next season, we call retirement, there will be time for your own refinement. Time for walking and time for pleasure. Time for cooking at your leisure. Time to garden with great gusto. Time to admire your work, a must-go. Time to love your newfound time. Time to reflect on a career sublime. A career that spanned 3 decades and 5. A career that kept new thinking alive. There will be time to plant and to sow all that you choose from all that you know. On the eve of retirement, we wish you the best. For Shalom, Yedida, Yanyeli, Wajak, no rest. Rifka, thank you for your contributions, for being our colleague, our teacher, our student, our friend. Bravo. Well done.
Ladies and gentlemen, superintendents, principals and their vices, or vice principals, fellow teachers, friends, relatives, and others, though I can't really imagine who you might be. For those of you whom I've not met over these many years, I am the man behind the woman being feted here today. So often in the York Region District School Board, I have been recognized as Rifka's husband, and I have quickly retorted that Rifka is my wife. Well, today, with some measure of awe, I can tell you that I am truly proud to be introduced as Rifka's husband of more than 30 years. I'd like to make special note of the presence of our daughter, Ayala. Her sister, Yedida, is not with us celebrating today as she's in Manhattan, in the Heights, as they say, buried deeply in her books, preparing for comprehensive exams, or so she says. Rifka's parents are here. Sid and Ida Holtz-Skinner moved here from London, Ontario, just a few years ago in preparation for this event. Apples do not fall far from the tree. Sid Holtz-Skinner spent much of his working life as a teacher and school tech director in London. Brothers Barry and Stevie, with their wives Fern and Allison, are here from near and far. I've only been given a standard secondary school academic 72 minutes to speak to you today, so I shall be quick. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation, but there's an evaluation form on SurveyMonkey and a Google Doc we can share. That's a joke. I'd like to read a semi-official proclamation prepared in the great city to our south where we live. This is on official City of Toronto stationery. Whereas Rifka Eisenstadt has been involved in public elementary education for 32 years and is now preparing to put her weekly newsletter to bed and spend more time at Yorkdale, the gym, and cooking. From her early beginning in public life in London, Ontario, as a young and gifted television game show star, Rifka quickly grew into her own as the University of Western Ontario's orchestral bassoonist. Soon realizing that the back pressure on her brain was having deleterious effects and that her influence on earth as a bassoonist would not fully be appreciated, she chose to dedicate her life to instilling in our youngsters the love of musicality and cacophonous orchestration as a teacher of music. It was in this capacity that she mastered one note on each instrument. Noting that the real power to change the course of life on the planet was less in waving her arms than in weighty decisions made in the office, she honed her skills in the great city of Toronto and in the Manitoba frozen wasteland of Assiniboia South. After procreation and recovery, 2 perfect human females, she once again assumed the podium in York Region. From James Robinson Public School to York Hill Elementary to Willowbrook Public School to Rosedale Heights to Westminster to Ventura Park to Thornhill Public School, she mastered the tricks of teachers and then the principles of principals and was crowned the Data Queen. Rifka has exemplified the principles of righteousness, sensitivity, compassion, and data integrity. Now, therefore, I, Councillor James Pasternak, on behalf of the Toronto City Council, do hereby declare March 30th, 2012 as Rifka Eisenstadt Retirement Day, and extend my sincere congratulations to the entire Eisenstadt family and staff of the York Region District School Board on this significant occasion. Signed by our close friend, James Pasternak. I stand before you at this august moment, humbled and trembling at the thought of Rifka retiring. May God give me strength. Some of you know, and as Joel said earlier, Rifka and I met when we were teenagers several decades ago, years before she stood in front of a class of impressionable youngsters. As a band teacher, she mastered corralling and cajoling dozens of hormonal teenagers into creating a uniform semblance of what would be called music. We have shared many, many experiences together since then as educators, as parents, as colleagues, and as friends. All that corralling and cajoling of teens was great experience for managing teachers and students in the grand experience of her last 16 years as principal. Your contributions to the YRDSB are many. The Together We're Better conference, the electronic report card, technology and technology leadership committee meetings, digital literacy, gender and achievement, and leading many schools, and manning the report card help desk from home. And of course, your staffing spreadsheet is the stuff of legend. I remember the afternoon we did that. And I have to personally thank you for all that private curriculum and literacy consultant work over the dinner table. The girls as well. Now, to ease you into your new lifestyle and to provide you with some memories of we who remain in the trenches, I have purchased some gifts that I think will do the trick. Please, as you integrate these small baubles into your new lifestyle, remember from where they came and from where you've come. So, apologies to Ayala, who so nicely wrapped these. I must take them out to show you why these are significant for Rifka's new life.
You're going to have to teach me how to really wrap presents. Yeah, now she does.
This is a piece, this is pruning shears. Why? To cut from your midst all those young shoots which are a pain in your garden. Now this is very significant because I know how you would have found this so handy to have in your office over the last 16 years. This is SPF 60 sunscreen, and it's a critical piece, dual purpose of course, gardening and sunbathing.
I think it's taped to the thing.
Knee pads for scrubbing floors. Can you imagine that? For long mornings of silent prayer. Oh, why did I leave the school? And gardening. A set of brand new solar-powered garden lights to remind you of the light you've brought into our system, and solar-powered to make note that there's no end to how much more light you can shine on whatever you choose to do. You knew I could fuck that up. And This literally jumped out at me in a store that I never pointed. 1,000 places to see before you die. To remind you of the world outside the York Region District School Board, and oh, the places you still can go. Thank you for all coming to this event.
Try not to cry because the Kleenex is over there. And we'll see how Yelly took me makeup shopping on Sunday night. We had private tutelage, and they gave me there was a product that sort of, it's a fixer spray. So there's about like 3 gallons of it.
Doesn't mean you won't run.
Nothing is for the street. There may be chunks that fall off. I thought you might find it interesting to know that there are a huge number of websites devoted to retirement speeches. I had been quite hesitant to write this speech. I had a few ideas knocking around in my head, but I just kept procrastinating until I realized that everyone around me appeared to be working on the party or the assembly or their speech, and I had done nothing, and I was starting to feel guilty. Hence the Google search. These are some of the sites I came across for those of you who might be interested in the near future. Retirementstories.com. Real stories about real. Publicspeakingadvice.com. Speeches and toasts for retirements, as well as birthdays, businesses, funerals, etc. Specialspeeches.com, which came with a warning to watch your humor, especially when it comes to over the hill and nursing home jokes. Those were the first 3 of approximately 11 million hits. The most fascinating one I found is at speechmachine.net/retirement. You might want to write this one down. There you're able to create your own retirement speech by filling in a few blanks and hitting the brainstorm button. The site then creates your very own unique speech. Ultimately, I decided to write my own. In the grand scheme of things, I sometimes feel like I started teaching yesterday at Glenview, where I taught grade 8 English to the first French immersion class in Toronto, and instrumental music to an amazing group of musicians who had started playing in grade 4 or 5. We consistently won Kiwanis music festivals and likely played better than my own high school band ever did. However, when I started to list all the things that have happened between September 1977 and now, I realized how much time has actually passed. So Sean stole a little bit of my thunder on this next one. He and I will deal with this later. Because he has seen my speech and still went ahead with that. During that time, I worked at 13 different schools. This is particularly interesting with the colleagues of mine who are on their, almost finished their career on their second school. I worked at 13 different schools. Glenview, Golden Gate, North Lee, Bessborough, Henry Hudson, Don Valley Junior High, James Robinson, York Hill, Willowbrook, Rosedale Heights, Westminster, Ventura Park, and Thornhill. There were times when I didn't want to put it all on my resume because it kind of looked like I couldn't hold the job. Since becoming administrator, I have worked for 14 different superintendents.
They can't hold you up.
Ernie Collins, Bill Gordon, Chris Collins, Beth Shelswell, Denise Belchez, Janet Lewis, Vicki Bismilla, Ken Thurston, Robert Dunn, Sharon List, Scott Yates for about 20 seconds, Diane Hawkins, Dennis Connor, sort of, and Jackie Young. With 8 Ps and VPs and right-hand persons, Bernadette Murray Robb, Neil Beattie, Jeff Tischler, Ryan Friedman, Cynthia Sneak, Wendy Howes, Orly Soroka, and Cynthia Goldfire. Some of my favorite time has been spent with my secretaries, almost all of whom are here today. Jane Purdy, Linda Hatton, Sylvia Montern, Walla Turney, I know how to say your name, Joe Harvey, Franz Clark, Tony Rudo, Stacey Beliak, and of course Al Hathaway. To all of these people, I owe a huge debt for trusting me, believing in me, guiding me, supporting me, and covering up my screw-ups. Over the years, I've worked with so many great teachers and EAs and taught thousands of wonderful kids. Thanks to Facebook, I'm still in touch with many of these former students. I'm really happy that some of my favorites have joined us here today. And I'm starting to get a little I just want to point out Jessica, and I know Sandy came in, and Sandy and Dave. So Dave is my, well, I don't want to say oldest student, because I go back even.
Bring it on.
Let's just put it this way. I was pregnant with that one when I taught that one. So we go way back. And still friends with all of them. This is where I'm really going to start to choke up.
You can do it, Mom.
Thanks. I am also very grateful for the other friends and colleagues I have met and worked with over the years. Surviving in the pressure cooker we call CDC West is no easy task. We have all learned that the only way to make it through is to support each other through all of our various crises. Lending an ear to listen, or a shoulder or cell phone to cry on, is what keeps us going. I hope my friends feel as blessed having had me on their team as I feel about them on mine. Before concluding, I want to thank Cynthia and Elham for organizing this party. As in everything else they do, they took on the challenge, they worked like crazy people, and produced this wonderful event. So thank you so much. Just a moment to dry up a little bit. In my final newsletter address, I refer to TPS as my final placement in education. Sharon, who helped me with this, suggested that rather than write that, I should call it my final placement in York Region. The fact is, the way rocks get called back, and I do want to, we've been making reference to rocks here. For those of you that don't know, a rock, it's not like an old lumpy person. It might be, with all respect to the rocks that are here today. ROC stands for Retired on Contract, and it's basically a supply principle, right? So when teachers go out on a leave, they get LTOs in, so a ROC is like a principle of LTO. So the fact is, the way ROCs get called back might not even be the end. But I want to thank you all for coming and sharing this very special day, celebrating my final official placement as a full-time contract principal in the New York Region District School Board. Thank you very much.